I judge a man by is how they handle adversity. And so I've watched how you handle adversity, and you just keep your head up, and you'll be like, it's like God fashioned you for such a time as this. You know what I'm saying? That's when you know people have been called to ministry because you just watch how they navigate different spaces. And that's the reason why I want to ask you, how did you navigate your whole church been, in water? Because that's a hard thing to navigate.
I think I handle adversity well because it's never my intent to be adversarial. So if I'm misunderstood, doesn't mean I was being adversarial. So I don't have to go to bed at night apologizing to anybody or myself because I was intentionally adversarial. I try to be as good to people as I want them to be to me.
That's good.
And I don't always get it right, but I do get it right sometimes. And there are times that I don't feel good.
Every second that escapes without you here with me keeps my heart anticipating till I finally see you.
When I made my vows, I told God that I was going to take care of this gift.
All my life I've been waiting for you. Girl, you know I've been praying for you. Been writing these love letters to you.
So I fight for that future in the present. You know what I'm saying?
That was good, Ken.
Congratulations to the ones who found love, for the hope and new beginnings from heaven above. I await my future wifey. I pray that it won't be too long, too long. Every second.
Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Laterras R. Whitfield. Listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, come on, can we get a commitment? Hit that subscription button and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming episodes. This is the last episode of season 8, man. This was absolutely amazing. I've been reading all the comments, the DMs of how much this season has impacted your life. So we have to end with a big bang, y'all. If we're going to do it, we got to go out big in season 8. And when we dropped the episode with this brother and his wife, y'all loved it. I saw so many DMs and y'all reached out to me asking me to interview them. And once we did, y'all were pleasantly surprised. Well, I have him back by himself. So we're going to chop it up. We're going to have some bro talk. So without further ado, welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. My homie, Pastor Keion Henderson.
Man, good to have you.
Should I call you Pastor or call you Keion?
Man, you can call me Keion.
All right, so we're going to be
Good
Keion
to be
today.
here, man. This is my first time in here.
Yeah. We've been trying to get you here for a minute, and so again, thank you for having me go to Cry Out. That was a huge God wink for me. It was a beautiful experience. I love how y'all took great care of me coming out there. You do stuff first class. So kudos to that.
Man, I appreciate it, man. It was one of the highlights of the conference.
It was
a lot
fun.
of people talked about it. You did it justice, man. It was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Phenomenal.
You know what? I definitely want you on here because when we did Cry Out, we were talking about your wife's book, and you had a book that was coming out. It's on shelves right now.
Mm-hmm.
It launched August the 7th, Lazy Love, and I just want all my followers, I'm going to go right off the top. I want all y'all to go get this book right now.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm going to make it my point, and I want y'all to join me in this, that we're going to use this platform to make this book a New York Times bestseller. Now, do you even know how a book becomes a New York Times bestseller?
Yeah, so it's a rhythm. It's a compilation of things, not just the amount of books sold in a specific time, but the diversity of which the places, the outlets they buy them from. So it's a formula, and the great thing about the formula is you can't trick it.
Nobody knows it.
You can't trick it because you don't know it, and it's probably some people in the room that also have a say in it. One thing is, so you can't buy it.
You sure can.
You got to earn it. So
You got to earn it.
You got to do the work.
And with this platform being all across the world, one of the biggest relationship podcasts in the world, we consistently rank top 20 on Apple Podcasts. That this relationship space, I'm so honored that God has allowed me to be a voice as we've been curating these conversations. And when you told me about this book, first of all, the title just grabbed me off the top. Why'd you name this book Lazy Love?
First of all, do your producers got like one of them buttons they can push with the clap can come in? Like, can they just start clapping right now? Like top 20? Do you understand this? It's 50 states with 1 million podcasts.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about relationships in the top 20. That's crazy, man. Congratulations.
And it's the number one African American one.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's the part that just blows my mind. But this is your second book?
Second book. So this is how it wasn't even supposed to be a book.
What was supposed to be a sermon?
I wrote a sermon.
Okay.
You know how we do as preachers. So one day, I think Valentine's Day came on a Sunday. So I said, let me figure out a relationship sermon that I can preach. And so I wrote this sermon called Lazy Love. And one of my associate pastors at the time, he was like, man, that's a book. See, sometimes it always takes somebody else to let you know, because you're so common with what God gave you. He gave me a whole book, which, by the way, shameless plug, was number one in new release the day it came out. And I thought it was a 60-minute sermon. And it was actually a book that God would eventually take around the world. So, the first thing I learned, man, you can't ever become common with the little things that God give you, because sometimes those little things become big things. So here it is. I read Hebrews 6, and it says that God is watching your works and the way you love. And the C part of the verse says, and do not become lazy. Man, that thing hit me, because I was like, wait a minute.
Wow.
I've always attributed lazy to work,
Yeah.
But he said love. Now, all of us Bible buffs and readers, we always, the sloth, right?
Yeah.
So I tried to figure out a way to connect it. I looked up the word lazy in context. It said sluggish. Another context said slothful. I went right over. See, you're a preacher, so it already hitting you. I go right over to Solomon and start talking about the sluggard. But I get out. See, here's one thing, and we just having a conversation.
Yeah, we talking.
Here's one of the things I've learned as a preacher. If you read the Bible only, you can't be a good preacher.
Nope.
I know somebody's that's going to go viral, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying that
the Bible's not enough.
The Bible is enough.
Yeah.
But in order for it to reach people, you have to find personal application.
Well, that's what Jesus did.
That's what he did, right? Yeah. So he talks about water being turned to wine. He talks about laying on the bed. But in order to find out why his legs don't work, you need to ask an orthopedic surgeon. You can't just read the Bible. So I went and looked up sloth. Found out that they eat a leaf that makes them high. Right? So when you see a sloth moving slow, it ain't because it's slow, it's high. The sloth is high. That's the true me. That's the truth. It's high when you see it in the wild and it's moving slow. It's high off of the leaf it eats. And when the Bible says do not be like the sluggard, I thought it meant don't be slow. What it actually means is don't be addicted to the thing that impedes your movement.
Teach. Good Lord. Don't be addicted to the thing that impedes your movement.
Yeah, because most of us, if not all of us, we are addicted to the thing that slows us down. Like the trauma that was passed to me from my father, I was addicted to it. The trauma that was passed to me from my mother, I was addicted to it. The pains that I caused myself, I was addicted to. And so what happens is when you are addicted to trauma, you try to find a way to get what you need through a route that has the little amount of pain associated with it. The problem is that you create a defense mechanism that keeps you from being able to receive love from people who ain't trying to hurt you.
So you're just going to start off like that? Because it's people right now saying, ouch. It's people, they like, oh my God, let me pause this video and take all that in. And when I'm going in my mind when you're saying that and saying, I'm looking at the pain points in my own life throughout the years of saying, yep, That's real. I remember that season in my life. I was addicted to that, or addicted to that person that is like. I ain't finna tell all my business, but keep talking, Pastor.
I mean, it's your podcast. You can tell.
I always tell all my business.
Let me ask you a question, brother Laterras. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead. Talk to me.
So our life is the sum total.
Yes.
Of our yeses and our nos.
Yep.
If you would have said yes when you said no, said no when you said yes, you'd be at a different place. So we end up here because of our affirmations or our declines. I said yes. This is the result. I said no, this is the outcome. That's called pain. So what is lazy love? Lazy love is when I don't have the energy to either rescue me or rescue the person who's depending on me. And where does that come from? Well, you and me both. We both came through the womb of a woman.
Yeah.
Well, that woman, my mama, your mama, whether they're alive or not, the person who's watching, their mother and their father, or their grandmother, whoever raised them, aunt, uncle, adopted parent, that person was loved by somebody else.
Yeah.
And if they were loved improperly by the person who raised them, then they passed that leaf, talking about the sloth, they passed that diet over to you. And you eat it. And what do you do when you go in the kitchen of life? You make the same meal somebody taught you how to make. And you cook for your new spouse, your new boo, your new girlfriend. You give them the same meal. What do I mean by meal? I'm going to give you this love if you love me first. Right? If, it could be, well, I'm a woman, and so I don't believe I should ever have to pay for anything. Well, that may be your story until you meet a guy that you say you love, and he finds out, well, nothing.
There's gonna be some reciprocity around.
Yeah, some reciprocity. So that's what the substratum of the book is, and so the subtitle is.
Hold on, what word did you just say? Substratum. What'd you say?
That's the meaning of the book. Like that's the
what's
summary.
Say that word one more time.
Substratum.
Substratum.
It's substratum. It's like
I've never heard that word in my whole life.
I'm absolutely sure you have.
No, I haven't. I'm sure I haven't.
So you're gonna start off like that?
No, I'm just saying I've never heard that word. I'm a wordsmith, so when I hear a word, it tickles my ear, and I'd be like, oh, I've never heard.
It's one of my favorite words. It's the substratum. It's like the summary of the book. It's like you're recognizing and reversing the threats to any successful relationship. And this book ain't just about romantic relationships, because you got to learn how to get along with your brother.
There it is.
You got to learn how to get along with your coworkers. And bro, last but not least, you better learn how to get along with yourself. Because if you can't get along with you, can't nobody get along with you.
So as you were writing this book, because a lot of times writing books becomes therapy to, for us first. So what were you unpacking as you was writing that? And what were you going back into the crevices of your mind and saying, ooh, God, I hear you doing surgery on me while I'm trying to educate about this.
First of all, everything.
Yeah.
So now I got to relive my own failures.
Yeah.
And here's the problem with being an author. If you're vulnerable. Now I got to tell you how to be good at something I'm bad at.
There it is. There it is.
I got to tell you now. It's through learning and experience that I've overcome. But I have to tell you, because I got to start at the beginning. I can't start at the end.
Yep.
So now I got to walk you through my failures, give you a preview of what we would consider success, and still having some of the particles of that failure still on me.
Yes.
And then tell you, but you can make it. That's a hard job.
Do you think you do that? Is that kind of synonymous with what you do as a preacher?
Absolutely.
So with writing, what makes that even deeper?
Because with a sermon is 60 minutes, with the book is 300 pages. And I can't give you my whole story in a sermon, but if that book's going to be good, I got to give it all to you. I got to go back and tell you, my mom worked at Taco Bell, made $6 an hour, never married my father, didn't have enough money to turn air conditioning on, so we had to put fans in windows. couldn't pay the water bill, so she filled the tub up once, and all of us took a bath in the same water. Like, that's vulnerable.
Yeah.
So now I got to out me and I got to out her.
Yes.
Now I got to put my mama on the line who didn't ask for this, and involve my sisters who don't get an advance for this, right? Or don't get royalties.
Yeah.
So it's hard. But I found out that one of the ways you can be a great leader, and I'm not talking about skill set, or a great writer, is to ask the people who are involved in the story for permission to tell the whole truth.
And they all said, yes, do it.
Do it. Do it. My mom, she said, go for it. My sisters, absolutely. And that was a part of the failure of my first relationship, is that I pursued my dreams without asking for permission. I was too lazy to look back and say, are you willing to come?
You said you pursued your dreams without asking for permission.
Yeah. Do you know how hard it is to be connected to a driven person who never asks your permission, is it okay to drive? That's hard. Imagine everybody can't be married to LeBron James.
Yep.
He's going to spend 12 hours in the gym.
Yep.
If you want your man at home 15 hours a day, you can't marry a professional.
Yeah, ain't gonna work.
Yeah, so you have to turn around and say, kids, wife, is it okay? Or let them know, for the next 6 months, I ain't going to be a good dad.
When did that dawn on you? Did that dawn on you after you got into your marriage with Shani, where you look back and said, gosh, I didn't ask permission? Or did that happen during the marriage and you tried to recalibrate and say, okay, let me try to figure it out, and then found out that y'all had just grown apart?
No, it happened in between, because when I started to look back and figure out where I failed, because see, when you first go through something like that, you always want to blame somebody else.
Yep.
See, blaming somebody else only gets you to the end of the road to find out that you were part of the problem, and you never get to the solution because you never admit that you were part of the issue.
Exactly.
So I got to the end of the road and was like, dang, I wouldn't have liked me either. Who would like somebody who is walking around the house all day singing church songs and reading the Bible and then let me tell you one of the traumatic inconsistencies. I'm trying to find the word that could fit in there. Hypocrisies that I would have. Giving myself the grace to be a failure and then using the Bible to tell somebody else they ought to do better. Ain't that sick, man? That's crazy. The Bible say you ought to do, well, yeah, you too. Boy, I'll tell you, boy.
Why you say you was walking around the house singing church songs?
Man, listen, I've been preaching since I was 14. I had to find out that preaching is what I did, not who I was. It took me some time to figure out that there was a difference between Keion and Pastor.
Keion, what's wrong with walking around the house singing church songs?
With house shoes on, a wife beater, church socks, and basketball shorts.
You was working on your gospel album. What's wrong with it?
Just terrible.
So
bro.
What you mean? So when you met your ex-wife, you were a preacher then? So did you say that you wanted to be a pastor, or you just an evangelist traveling around preaching?
I was a pastor before I met her. I've been pastoring since I was 21.
You was pastoring?
I pastored.
Pastor.
A senior pastor. I started a church my senior year in college, bro. I tell you think I'm playing when I tell you about this churchiness? Bro, I played basketball. My coach would let me leave practice, go teach Sunday school. I would go teach Sunday school, leave Sunday school, and go back to basketball practice. I had 600 members when I was in college.
Are you for real?
Playing basketball.
Was it all students or people in the community?
Oh, bro, let me tell you the real story. So my first 5 members were all over the age of 72. So I'll never forget a lady named Vanita Early. She heard me preach in a church called True Love Baptist Church, and she said, "You gonna be my pastor." I didn't believe it at the time. We ended up starting a church together. She invited her friends. So I said, yeah, invite them. I'm thinking, man, this about to be dope. I get to the first service at Saloni Mayhill's house. She was sitting in her maroon lazy boy. It was leather. And she had The first 5 members there, Saloni Mayhill, Vanita Early, J.D. Henderson, Mother Williams, Brother Williams, and they were in there, and they were all 72 and above. I preached my first sermon in her living room, called my pastor and told him, I said, oh no, I can't do this. By the way, the name of the church that we picked was the Pilgrim Rest Missionary Baptist Church. And I was in on that meeting. I said yes to it.
They was your founding members?
My founding members, right? I go in there, preach that sermon.
And you was like, what, 19, 20?
I was 21. This is what all of them was doing while I was preaching. So,
how long did you preach?
About. You got to stop, because I'm going to run out of here.
How long did you preach?
Oh, man. I intended a half hour, but they would sleep 5 minutes in. I called my pastor after it was over. I said, I'm quitting. I ain't doing this. They would sleep. My father said, who was my pastor, that man said, didn't you say they was all 72? I said, yeah. He said, fool, that's the side effects of medication. He said, they all on something. The medicine got them sleep. He said, you doing good. Go back and do it again.
He said, go back and do it again.
Go back and preach again.
So you went back and preached the next Sunday at her house?
No, we didn't go back to her house. Her daughter was over a daycare. So we went to daycare.
She went the opposite. You went all the way to start preaching to
babies.
I
went from the elderly to the barely, and then went to the daycare, and it was disgusting because they ain't cleaned it. Diapers everywhere. I rented 2 speakers from a dude named Rob Ryder. 2 15 inches. One was facing them, one was facing me, with a microphone with a 6-inch cord on it. I couldn't lead the speaker too far, so I had to stay connected to it. I'm preaching that sermon, man. And people start joining.
They did.
Start joining, man.
At the daycare?
At the daycare.
And that's where you started holding services?
Started holding services at a daycare.
And you were 21, your what, junior year in college?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And you grew that thing to 600 people?
Grew it to 600, man.
At the daycare?
Not only did I grow it to 600 people, we purchased a building for $40,000.
Hold on.
2 acres.
At that age?
And I bought the 10 acres across the street. I brokered a deal. So I went to school. I didn't go to school to be a preacher. I went to school and got my degree in business. So I wanted to be a CEO of a corporation.
So what you doing basketball then? Where that's going to fall in?
I wanted to play in the NBA too. Man, I love this podcast. We just talking about everything. So let me tell you what I did. My coach asked me, he said, you going to preach or you going to play basketball? Because it did become a problem. The more the church grew, the more practices I missed. My coach said, you going to play basketball or you going to preach? I looked at him and said, I said, man, I got baptized at 6. I've been preaching since I was 14. I started preaching July 1995, last Sunday of July. I said, I got baptized at 6, been preaching since I was 14. I've been in the church all my life. This is an easy choice. You're asking me, am I going to play basketball or am I going to preach? I'm going to play basketball. And I'm going to ask the Lord to give me enough money when I play basketball to buy him a church. I said that at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. By 8 o'clock that evening, I was on the stretcher on my way to the hospital. I tore every ligament in my left knee the same day I said that. So it wasn't no doubt what I was supposed to do with my life.
You said that was an easy decision?
An easy decision. Because when you hear your knee pop in your ear, after you told God what you're not going to do, yeah, you know that you had better listen. So although I was playing up until that point, I got real serious. At that moment. And that's when I knew I was going to do ministry the rest of my life.
But at that point, when you hurt yourself playing basketball, your church was thriving?
Church was thriving. I still had another year of basketball. So instead of pursuing professional basketball, I spent my whole senior year knowing that once I dribble the ball the last time this season, that's it. I can't pursue professional basketball. I've got to spread the gospel. And so,
what city were you in doing this?
Fort Wayne, Indiana. I was at Purdue University.
Purdue.
Okay. Under my coach Doug Knoll at the time, and Cliff Livingston. He won a couple championships with Michael Jordan and Joe Pachota. So yeah, that's my life, man. That's how I got here.
So did you regret it? Like at that moment when you hurt yourself, did you go, wow, God, now I got a problem with you because I said this and I'm hurt? Because your goal was, to be the next Michael Jordan. If you're looking at that like that, I have goals to be in the NBA. I say this and then you did this to me, God?
I had some dark nights. I ain't gonna lie to you. I did have some dark nights to the point where I dreamed about the injury over and over again. And if I ever saw somebody get hurt on television, it sent me into like a psychological shock because I got hurt with them.
Like PTSD.
Yeah, and I probably still do have it because sometimes I see something and it'll bother me a little bit. So I did have some post-traumatic stress. And I would be honest, I think I still do. I think I still do at this point in my life. And I don't know how to fully get rid of it. I've been to counseling about it, but my best strategy for it is literally, here go the Bible stuff, to put old things behind me, press toward the mark for the prize of the upward call. And I am who I am. I got what I have. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And so I'm happiest. And my route here, man, it was full of hell, quite honestly. But I made it.
Did you, when did the singing aspirations come into play? 'Cause a lot of people don't know you can blow. So it's like I went to your church one day and you started singing. I was like, this joker can sing. Like, I was like, this joker can sing. I was like, what in the world? I had no idea. And then I was talking to my publicist, and she was like, "Oh yeah, an album. He's a for real gospel artist." I was like, "He is? He what?" I was just
I have a nomination for a Stella Award.
Yeah, Stella's, yeah.
So I didn't. So when I was in the 6th grade, I tried out for the talent show. I sung.
What you say?
"Forever My Lady" by Jodeci. I created a group in elementary, man. And we wore Timberlands and everything. I could still see myself, ooh, yeah, So,
did y'all win?
I don't even remember, man. I don't remember. So I started early. And then when I got to high school, a guy named Leon Kendrick, he's a legend in the town I grew up in. And he had me sing "Chestnuts Roasting on the Open Fire" for the Christmas play.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Yeah. And I got a standing ovation.
He was like, yes, I like this.
It's like, dang, I'm the next Eddie Kane. I'm about to sing this thing. And that's when I fell in love with singing. He made me fall in love with it, man. He was so patient with us. He made me fall in love with it. So yeah, man.
So through college you were singing?
Yeah. The first song that I sung as a pastor was "A Change Gonna Come" by Sam Cooke.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it was my favorite song. And
so you were preaching and singing when you started off?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I can see why they were being drawn to you like that, because that's a perfect duo to have together. If you're preaching and you can preach the word and you can sing, and then you're young and vibrant. And so, well, let me ask you, 'cause before I assume, when you were 23 and 21, well, I'll say 21 years old, when you were preaching, were you trying to preach and be like the old folks?
Yeah, I'm younger now than I was when I was 21. When I was 21, I had 5 buttons. I had a knot with a Pat Riley collar, and I was like, "What's up, Doc?" All that kind of stuff. Man, I remember meeting Bishop Jakes. Bishop Jakes told me, he said, "Now you too old to be this young." He said, "Your problem is you trying to be like people who you're already above." Man. And he said to me, "I listened to 5 of your sermons online." This is the first conversation we ever had. He said, "I listened to 5 sermons you preached online." He said, "You are an Olympic swimmer in shallow water."
Woo!
Changed my life, man.
How old were you then?
Early 30s. Early 30s.
Did you take heed to that and adjust?
I did. So when he told me, and he gonna get mad at me for telling this story, I'm on the phone with him. He said, "I don't know why it took you so long to say nothing." He said, "You preached so long and you didn't say nothing." I put the phone on mute and cried because I wanted him to be impressed with me. And one thing about that man, he will not give you an approval until you deserve it. But when he does give it to you,
You know you deserve it.
you know you deserve it. Yeah, you know you deserve it.
He said you preach so long.
He said, why did it take you so long to say so little? Woo, man.
Why did it take you so long to say so?
Preached an hour and didn't say nothing.
That was one of your favorite sermons.
Man, I thought it was my stick. Because, you send them your best ones. I said, did this man just look at my best sermon and say I ain't say nothing? I ain't got a shot.
I'm quitting.
But let me tell you what he do, though. Let me
What?
tell you what he do. He ain't going to just leave you like that.
Leave you wounded.
No, he ain't going to leave you wounded. He said, if I preached this sermon, this is what I would have said.
Ooh,
And he
killed
went
it,
for a half hour and killed it. And then I started crying again. Like, man, I ain't never going to get good at this.
But Bishop is on a different level.
Whole nother level, man.
He's just on a different level. Because I'll be listening to him sometimes. I said, how does he know the vocabulary that well to string words together like that so effortless?
Yeah, he different.
It's just, I watched this video one day where he was, who was that? Your boy, God, it's not Virginia. I just forgot the man's name, but it's a pastor. And they were just throwing stuff at him and told him to preach, freestyle. And I was just like, this don't make no sense. It's not
That's
fair.
how he trained us to preach. He would take a glass, sit it on the table, put water in it and say, preach on it. And he would have to say something like, as the dew runs down the, he would make you.
I'm going to do it. Here it is. Right here.
This is an award you got?
Yeah.
He would give it to you and say, in my hand, I hold something that was given to a man who didn't make it. So the person who made it obviously had some sort of idea of the specialty or the specificity of the person they were going to give it to, because they didn't make it out of wood. They didn't make it out of some inferior object. They made it out of precious metal. I guess it would signify the level of man or woman it would be given to. But what I see, he must have been a worshiper, because his head is looking toward the hills, like David said, from which his help would come from. And his arms are, so he would make us just, and then he would say, but what's greatest about this is it's a picture of God, because the man who it belongs to, I assume the fingerprints that I'm looking at belong to him. And ain't that like God? If you look at me, if you see anything, you could assume he touched me. So, and he would just make us just preach. That's what he would do.
God, no. And you was doing that at 30.
Yep. He would have it no other way.
So what did you feel, or how did you feel, and what was it that you said, if you remember, where he said, now you got it?
It took a while. But when he told me, I think I was preaching for him. I did a virtual sermon for his pastors and leaders conference. It was shut down by COVID.
So during 2020.
Yeah, and I preached, and I sent him the video, because he's involved in all of his business. So I sent him the video, and he called me and he said, "I'm proud of you."
You cried again, huh?
Did I cry that time? No, I was like, man, about time, bro. Dang. No, I'm kidding.
Took you long enough.
Man, to be appreciated by somebody you admire means a lot. Yeah.
He the GOAT. He the GOAT. And so when you start looking back, so now here you are at 21 years old. You've abandoned your dreams and aspiration of being an NBA player, and you went full in to ministry.
Full in. I was full time then.
But I'm talking about with no backup plan.
No backup plan. I got my first salary 6 months in. They gave me $50 a week. Yeah. So I got $200 a month. I was driving a 1996 Buick Regal. It was turquoise, gray interior, dual climate control.
He said dual climate control.
And so after that, they raised me to $250 a week. Then I got me a Chrysler 300. And like a fool, the note was $500. I spent half of my monthly salary on the car that they said looked like a Bentley.
Everybody wanted those though. That was the broke man's Bentley, boy.
Yes,
That thing that had that grill, and that was designed by a black man.
Really?
Yeah, it was designed by a black man as an engineer at Chrysler, and I guess he gave us the live on that one. He said, "Hey,
it wasn't like Cat Williams said. It looked like a Bentley until a Bentley passed by."
to a Bentley passed
Man.
by. And so now here you are. When did you relocate from Indiana to? No, when did you get married? At what age?
Oh man, I don't remember. Next question. Putting old things behind me. I pressed toward for
we
the.
can talk about your ministry.
for
You
the
can't
prize
talk about
of
when you
the-
got when you started ministry, but you can't talk about when you got married.
I don't remember.
You don't remember how old you were?
Don't remember.
I
Next
plead
question.
The, plead the fifth.
I was like, don't remember. 20 something. 23, 24, I don't know.
So
don't
in
remember.
that point, because you made a comment about how you didn't get the buy-in of your former spouse on what the trajectory of your life looked like, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing that moment? Like, hey, we're finna go move to Houston, and y'all may have met in Indiana and didn't get a buy-in that y'all gonna move here and move there, or how
No,
did that work?
so it wasn't necessarily didn't get a buy-in. I was pastoring before we met, but she knew she was marrying a pastor,
Right.
So it wasn't the buy-in. What I meant by that is when you pursue a dream, you have to get buy-in for the amount of work that it takes to pursue the dream.
Yeah.
It wasn't buy-in for who I was. It was buy-in on, I'm going to be absent, sometimes emotionally. I'm not just physically, but
Yeah.
emotionally, because I didn't have enough balance to know how to pursue her and the dream. Right?
That's good.
So the other woman became the church.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting up there all day trying to make it grow, not realizing that it wasn't my church to grow. It was God's. And so I spent all of that energy to get an outcome that I would have gotten had I been more faithful to home, because he was going to do that anyway. Right? I had a job to pastor my house. He was going to grow the church, but I was trying to help him. And I think that it grew to 600. Had I not been involved, it might have been 1,200.
Teach.
Because sometimes we think that our involvement is growing the thing. It could be that our involvement
Is hindering it.
is hindering the thing.
When I say, I think this crosses beyond just ministry, because what you're saying is so important, and it's speaking to me about, because I've always said that I got to find a healthy balance in what I do. And I watched a video one day where this content creator took a break from their platform, and it grew more. It grew more while they were on break than it did while they were pushing the product. Or I said that math don't make sense to me, especially based on algorithms and all that other stuff. It's a concept that just doesn't make sense to me. But you hit the nail on the head. When it's God who's responsible for growing that thing, the Bible says you plant the seed, Apollo waters it, and God gives the increase.
Except the Lord build a house.
There it is.
He who labors in vain. Sometimes we have too much involvement in God's business. Sometimes I say you have to keep your hands off of it, because God doesn't want your fingerprints on his blueprints. Like, he don't want you to be able to take credit for it. He don't want you to be able to say, I was at the studio every day and I did it. No, there's some things that have happened to this podcast that there is only one explanation.
Facts.
But for the grace of God.
Oh, this is good. Lord, this is good. This is good. This is good. But that is so healthy. I need everybody everybody has to grab that, especially with people in ministry, because I hear that so often, is that the church becomes the other woman and their spouse gets left behind, and yeah, that just hit me.
Like my wife now, Shawnee goes to work with me, if not 80, 90% of the time. I mean, if I walk through that door, my wife is with me. Because we're on this journey together.
Yeah.
Like, this is our ministry.
But was that something that you had a conversation about?
Yes. This is what I'm saying. Yes. See, when you're young, let me not say you, because sometimes you put parameters on people that don't have. When I was young,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I needed to make sure that I made a decision that had enough room for my future in it. When you're young, you make a decision for where you are, and you have not yet considered where you will be. So when my wife and I got together, our first conversation lasted 6 hours. We were so brutally honest about where we were going and what we wanted to do. We both left the table. People say a love story. We didn't leave the table thinking like, can I see you tomorrow? We left thinking like, ooh, should I ever see you? Because we told each other like, I don't want to get married again. We told each other that. She said it to me and I said it to her. And we had decided that we were just going to be friends and we were going to walk this path. But it was good, man. We had so many conversations, hard ones.
Yeah.
That we didn't marry representatives.
That's good.
I think I knew who she fully was. I think she knew who I fully was. And that is ever evolving because people change. So who I was when I met her isn't who I am now.
Facts.
We sat with a couple once that was married 60 years.
60 years.
60 years. And to this day, every time they have an anniversary, I think they were just married 61 this past year, 62, they'll text us and say 62 years, y'all can make it. Now, ain't no way we making it 62 years unless we're going to live to 190. But I get the premise what they mean. It's Brother Henry Jackson and his wife. And I remember asking her while we were sitting there eating at the table, how do y'all stay married 60 years? She said, Pastor, yo daddy, because when you're young and you start a church, everybody your father. She said, yo daddy has been 9 different men since I've known him. I have just learned to love every version of him.
That's good. I need them. Shout out to them. I need them on my podcast. I love to sit around wisdom like that. Yeah. I need them.
Yeah, they were
60
amazing.
years.
60, 62 years.
And because you hear so many people when the relationship goes awry, they say, we grew apart. That's because you didn't learn how to evolve with the person and grow to love the next version of that person, the next iteration of that person. Lazy love.
Lazy love.
It's just like, no, that's too much work. Because when I met you, you wasn't doing this and you wasn't working at this job. Now you're doing this. I don't want no parts in that. And then you it goes awry. Yeah,
there's a quote, I saw it on a bumper sticker once. It said, the true mark of a Christian is not one who can love Jesus, but one who can love Judas. No, so are you still in love when you feel betrayed? Are you still in love when you felt like you haven't been told the truth? One of the biggest myths in relationship, and I covered in the book, is this 50-50 mess.
Talk about that.
It's mess. 50-50. This relationship is 50-50. What if I don't got 50 today? Are we going to have an 80% relationship? What we should be doing is having a fill in the gap relationship. I need to know you well enough.
Yes.
What do you have today? I got 40%. Don't worry about it. I got 60.
Yep.
Today I got 10. I got 90. Tomorrow I got 0. I got 100. Reciprocity. We're not looking to meet in the middle. I need you to meet me where I am.
Oh, gosh, that's good.
I need you to meet me where I am. And yesterday wasn't a 50-50 day. Yesterday, the boss cussed me out. I couldn't respond. He emasculated me, made me feel like less than a man. And I did not walk in the house with 50%. I walked in the house depleted of all of my manhood. Lady, can you give me 100 today? Can it be about me today? I promise you tomorrow, I'll make it about you. But I don't got 50. And you just have to meet me where I am, not meet me in the middle.
I don't know why that spoke to me so deeply. That took root because that is so real. And when you start hearing all this rhetoric, especially on social media, 50-50, 50-50, finances, 50-50 this, 50, and I ain't going to give you this unless you give me that. It's so counterproductive to a healthy marriage. It's counterproductive to even Christianity. Even with the Bible, it says Christ will meet you where you are.
That's correct.
If he sat there and just like, well, unless you come with your 50, I ain't coming with no grace.
Well, and think not only did he come, he came all the way. He came from heaven, put himself in the womb of a child, came through the womb, grew up another 33 years to get to the cross. All I had to do was look to him. He did 99% of the work. All I had to do is confess with my mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in my heart. He came all the way. So this idea that love is 50-50, it's preposterous in its nature, and it has no validity in its stance. So in the book I talk about, see, Laterras, we all are born with attachment styles.
Yeah.
But see, that's going to be different for me because I was raised by a single mother. But one of your listeners, their mother passed when they were young. Yeah. They were raised by their father. Somebody else was abandoned, and they were raised by
grandma.
Simone Biles was adopted.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to all have different evolutions of how we have these attachment styles. So watch this. If I have the attachment style, the avoidant attachment style, for instance, well, that's the person that when you try to love them, they're like,
push back.
Yeah. What are you trying to do to me?
Yep.
What are you trying to do to me? Well, I'm not trying to do anything. I just have to now recognize you don't recognize this signal. You don't recognize the signal, but you have to recognize that you have some faulty wiring.
Yes.
That makes this signal not get to you. And I can't force myself on you, but you also have to recognize that you have some deficiencies in that. Or maybe somebody who was loved by a parent who secure attachment, everything they ever needed
was there.
Yep. So the moment you get in a relationship with somebody who doesn't have everything you need, you think that's a signal that God's saying you need to go somewhere else. That's the wrong person. So we have to trace back to the root of who we are to find the fruit of who we're trying to become.
The root to the fruit. So as you were bleeding on these pages, how did it make you, what things did you have to tweak within yourself to show up different in this new marriage?
The first thing I had to do in this new marriage is I had to make sure that I kept my promise, that I was not the man that I was before. I had to keep that promise because let me tell you, everybody walks into new rooms fearful. And when you walk into a room fearful and you smell the scent of something somebody says they were not, you run because you feel lied to. Right? If somebody tells you, I was abusive in my last relationship, but I'm over that. I got counseling. And then the next time you say something they don't like, they hit you upside the head. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You said
what you said,
that you didn't do that no more. You lied to me.
Yep.
And now the lie becomes more powerful than the hit. Why? Because I grew up with a liar. I was raised by a liar. I looked out the window every day looking for my father to come, and he never showed up. So when you lie to me,
yeah, it's deeper.
You can smack me, I can get over it.
Yep, but don't lie.
Ooh, you lie, I can't make it. You leave me,
yep.
I feel rejected because I got that insecurity. You leave me, nah, you can hit me upside the head, I can forgive it.
But the fact leaving me, if you just go walk out the door and say, I need a few minutes, you
broke up with me.
Yeah, you broke up with me.
You broke up with me.
Don't come back. Leave. You're going to leave. Just don't come back.
Can I be honest? Nah, that's me.
Really? If somebody walk away?
Oh man, my wife will tell you. And I'm not proud of it. If you walk away from me, I'm gonna help you pack.
But that's how I am though. I'm the same way. I like to deal with whatever it is right now. But if you walk away, it's like I'll be like, where you going? Like you can, if you're gonna walk away, because first of all, I look at it as disrespect. So it's compounded. I look at it that you disrespected me. If you walk away and drive off and leave, then that's even more so. It's like, okay, you must not be coming back because you left, and you're trusting that I will still be here when you get back.
That's why me and my wife got out on all that on the table up front. I'm like, you can't leave the house.
Yes, facts.
You can't drive away. We can't do that.
Yep.
I remember one time me and my wife got in an argument. She grabbed some cover and called herself going to the other room. I followed her in there and laid right next to her. She said, something wrong with you. I said, we talked about this. Where you going? You mad? We mad. Now get in the bed. You turn that way. I'm turning this way.
But we're going to be here together?
But we're going to be here when we wake up. Do not play with me because I ain't all the way there.
But you say, we talked about this.
We talked about this.
So don't be surprised.
That woman going to get me when she see this, boy. Ooh, I'm in trouble.
You said you walked in and laid next to her,
right next to her.
try to cuddle with her. She said, get up off of me.
So she ain't tell me to get up off her. She knew I wasn't playing. I came right laying up, put my foot on her just like I normally do. Go to sleep. Go to bed. We going to sleep.
We go to bed. We wake up. We'll be better tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Is if people are transparent and honest enough to share whatever those idiosyncrasies are and have those conversations, then you get a chance to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Too often people, like you said, they'll fall in love with a representative, and then when they find out who that person really is and they're nervous, twitches and whatever their problems are, then they be like, it's off-putting, instead of saying, these are my insecurities.
Yeah.
This is what you're dealing with, so that they can love you, flaws and all.
Insecurity.
Yeah.
Like inner security.
Inner security.
You know, it's how I feel about me. And I can't outsource how I feel about me to how you feel about me.
I can't outsource how I feel about me on how you feel about me.
No. Because if I don't know who I am by the time I get to you, we're already doomed. Number one, I can't tell you who I am if I don't know. And number two, I don't know what my reactions are. I can't be consistent in my reactions if I don't know.
There it is.
So I got to know me. I've got to know me. And here is something I cover in the book. You really don't find out who you are from you. You find out who you are from the people you're in relationship with.
Yep, they're mirrors.
You remember back in the day when we used to go to school, you old enough like me
I'm
to
46.
remember, Scantrons. You remember?
Yes.
So this is what I would do. The teacher would get up there and say, A. I'm like, yep, A. She'd say E. I'm like, oh, I meant to say E. I changed the answer because people grade themselves on what they meant to say, not what they actually said. I got a lot of A's because I meant well.
I meant to say E.
I meant to say E. I promise you with my whole heart I did.
You're erasing the bubble. And on the honor system.
And I would color it in light to make sure I can get a full erase. Because if you go too dark, you can't get rid of it. Lazy love. You can get it anywhere. Amazon. Ain't that what we here for?
Yeah, Amazon.
Target, Barnes and Nobles.
Everywhere you pick up
Everywhere
your books.
you can get a book from.
Everywhere you get your books. Oh, my God.
Man, you got me in here sweating, man.
I turned the AC off because it'd be loud when I had the AC off. So listen, when you think about this, and as you've been transitioning, one thing I do want to talk about is your church is going through a whole remodel. And shout out to Joel Osteen and them for opening up the doors and letting y'all have service there.
Big shout out.
How does that feel?
Man. So I called Pastor Osteen and just said, hey, Pastor, we ain't got nowhere to go. Pastor Joel's so nice, man. Anybody who says this man isn't kind is lying. He said, Brother Keion.
He said, Brother Keion, listen.
Listen, anything you need, I will do it. His church staff put together a rental package for us of what it would cost. Now, anybody who's ever been to Houston.
That church is huge.
The church is the old Compact Center. This is where the Houston Rockets used to play basketball. And the church is the same size as the arena. 16,000 seats in there, I believe.
16,000.
And he says, you have your people call. He sent me 3 names. He said, call these people, they'll get you set up. So they sent us the rental agreement. Lord Jesus. I ain't never seen a rental agreement like that. And it was love. No, it was a love rental agreement. His love rental agreement
Was way too
was above
what your budget was?
Pastor Joe called me back and said, I saw the rental agreement. He said, that's way too much. I can't be a burden to you. I got to be a blessing to you. He said, I'm going to cap it no matter how long you stay. He capped it at a number that was feasible for us. His volunteers are there when we're in church.
Really?
His camera operators are on the camera. Some of his staff are in the room. They're in there serving us like we're members of their church. That is not lazy love. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's what real love looks like.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Me and Pastor Joe had a relationship before I had a need. And the problem with most people is they try to form relationships around the need they have.
Gosh, that's good.
And you can't build a house in a hurricane. It got to be built before the storm comes, and it got to be strong enough to withstand the wind. But he's a great person. Thank God for them.
Y'all gonna be there how long?
We got 3 more weeks. I'm working on some stuff. I got a plan and I got faith. Faith without works is dead. So I'm using my business acumen and my prayer at the same time. And I think we're gonna be all right.
Let me ask you this, because a lot of times pastors, they always get a lot of negative flack from stuff, but people they can't even conceive mentally what y'all go through. It's like the weight that you have to carry. People, it's hard for them to hold their household together, let alone the whole church.
I mean, I get people saying stuff to me about what I should do. They can't do the same thing with their own child. One person said, "Don't worry about it. They got insurance." I just beg people not to listen to people's solutions who don't have your problems.
That part.
The insurance company gives you a depreciated value.
Yep.
Of a thing. So this microphone, if it's $1,000,
yep,
I had to raise money, save money, whatever, borrow money to buy this.
Yep.
Okay. Now, whether this microphone works or whether we're in the building or not, I still have to pay the mortgage.
Yes. Educate the people.
The offices were destroyed. So now I have to rent the second and third story, because of the size of our office, of an entire office building.
Second and third.
The second and the third. We have 75 employees. I'm renting the second and the third floor of an entire complex. And to this day, as God is my witness, in 15 years as a pastor, nobody has ever gone without getting their paycheck.
Good.
Thank God.
Good.
Thank God.
Good.
Even if it meant that I took less.
Yes.
So we're going to make sure that everybody gets that. And let me correct that, because people will take that. Not took less, paid less. So that's one thing. Then I've got 300 students in a daycare and a school.
I forgot about that.
Okay. So we had to spend the money that we did have to get the school back. I went school first, not sanctuary, because I got to get, those kids are 3 months to 5th grade. They can't be displaced for 2 years and have no education. So I had to spend what I had to get them back in the building. Okay, so that's number one. I took care of them. You can worship anywhere, but you can't have pop-up schools. People can't. You can't go
driving all around.
Yeah, you can't go to 5 different schools in the same school year. That's not feasible for parents. So I got that taken care of.
That's good.
Okay, the daycare is next. Well, I got to rent pods to put on the parking lot so that they can do that while they're building. I'm showing you that expenses go up, but the budget stays.
Yep.
The money that comes in doesn't.
Yep.
And then the insurance says, "Oh, the mic is worth $200."
Yep.
So now I got to buy another $1,000 mic when I got
$200.
$200, but that's going towards it mathematically doesn't work. So that's the part where I'm walking by faith. But my strategy is that I didn't live in good times like bad times were not coming. So there's an old story that says, when you're on the mountaintop, throw enough dirt in the valley, so if you do fall, you don't have that far to fall.
I ain't heard that, but that's a good one.
So we had some dirt in the valley. And that's why the fall wasn't catastrophic. And that's why I know now we're inching our way back up. We've had partners, the Potter's House, Right Direction Church, Darius Daniels and Change Church. And Lord, if I don't say your name, y'all, please forgive me. I've had pastors that say, "Hey, here is something for your church to keep going." It's amazing, man. It's amazing how it happens. Dr. Mike Freeman just said, "Hey, man, we're sending something to the church. Nothing to me, to the church."
Yeah.
So that keeps us going. But
But thank
We'll
you
be
for
all
taking the time to educate, because a lot of times they just don't know, you know, and they don't liken it to their own personal situation when Hurricane Katrina happened, and what kind of, especially if you lived in New Orleans, how did that change your whole livelihood?
Man,
What
it
did that
changed
look
everything.
like? And so what happens is that when we take that same ideology and go, okay, now what happens when you displace a whole church?
Man,
Like, what is that?
thousands of people. Now, and I tell people, you may not have a church, but you got a smartphone. Break that one and see what you get for it. You paid $1,500 for it. Break it and see if they give you $1,500 back. They gonna give you a refurbished $200 phone and tell you this is what insurance covers.
After you paid the $150
And you got the
deductible.
There you go. They know how it works. Get in a car accident and see if you get what the original value of the car was. They know how it worked. They just like to mess with us, man.
They like to mess with you.
Yeah.
Like to mess with you. So when you look at that, because I want to get more into your heart space. When that happened and your church was like destroyed, take me into the mind of Pastor Keion. What comes across your mind? Like, how do you feel? What does that do to you?
So my birthday's July 6th. The storm happened July 8th. My wife had planned for us to go out of town for my birthday. So I was out of town. My sabbatical month was July. I'm laying down, looking up in the sky, and I was in a different time zone, so it was still light where we were. When it started getting dark, and my power went off at the house. I seen it on my phone, the internet and all of that. No problem. The generator's going to kick on. Everything's going to be fine. We got a generated church. No problem. Everything's going to be good. COO calls me and says, you need to speak to director of facilities. I said, okay. Now, I done been through so many storms. Ain't nothing happened. Ike didn't do nothing. Harvey didn't do nothing. We're fine. He says, sir, are you sitting down? I said, do not start a sentence off with me by asking me, am I sitting down? Whatever you got to tell me, if I'm standing up, you tell me. I don't care what I'm doing. Don't start it off like that. Roderick said, it ain't good. I said, what do you mean? So assistant pastor him, I said, send me some pictures. Brother, they sent me a video, and the entire ceiling of our church was on the ground. It was water in 100% of the building. And when they opened the doors to the church, the water went out like a river. I only seen that stuff on TV. Couldn't have been us. Now, my heart is broken because that building, I gave everything that I had for us to get in it. And on the day we closed on that building, or we were supposed to close, my grandfather died. So I had to postpone closing on that building to go bury my grandfather. The day that I signed the papers, see, what people don't know, that building, that didn't just come from tithes and offering. I had to put my name on that building.
Yeah. See, people don't be knowing that
I
stuff.
had to pay the down payment deficiency on the building out of my own, because I'm a businessman. I own a tax company, so I had some revenue. I had to use all of that for us to get in it. And while I was signing the papers, my oldest uncle died. And when I got the keys and went over to run in the building to be excited, I got the call. My mama said, your cousin, who is my uncle's oldest daughter, she died of a brain aneurysm. And so that building for me was a victory of having come through a hell of a tough time. And in 15 minutes, everything was in water, floating and broken, and lights were flashing. My cameraman, who's here with me right now, will tell you it's so bad that when we went in there, he was filming me in there. Pipe hit him in the head and cut him, and he started bleeding. It's a war zone. So I was just broke, to be honest with you. For a couple days, I didn't stay broken for long, because then the Lord said to me, the church is still open. The building is closed, but the church is still open. And for 5 years, the first 5 years of our church, we didn't have a building.
What are y'all doing? Are y'all hopping like
school to daycare center to hotel to school? For 5 years, we never had a church. Then 2 years, the church was closed for COVID.
Oh, yeah.
The church is 15 years old. The Lord reminded me, half of this church's life has been built outside of a building. And that's when I knew we could do it again.
There it is.
That's when I knew we could do it again. And then I started getting excited again because God gives us two things. He either gives us a chance or he gives us an opportunity. And the people who take the opportunity do something with it. The people who take the chance are sitting back waiting on God to do it. And God said, faith without works is dead. So God, you do what you do. I'm going to do what I do. And somehow when we come through this, we're going to come forth as pure gold.
And it's going to be so much better because I already know that you already put your mind together and what you're going to build next is going to...
Man, I listen, I told the church, I said, I'm putting us on the hook by faith. I already called the architect. I already called the general contractor. I done already called him. I ain't got nothing to give him. But I sure called him. Listen, the insurance adjuster ain't even came to the church yet to tell us what they're going to give us.
You said, I already called him.
I done already called him.
This is what we want. Like,
this is what's going to cost to build what's in my head. And the problem, and I know what God did because I told our church, and Jason, who's here with me, he'll tell you, I'd already told our church that we were going to rebuild in October. I told them we was going to, I'm just going to knock the wall out.
You talking this before this happened?
Can I talk to him off
camera?
Talk to him. How many months before the hurricane hit did I tell y'all we were going to rebuild? 6 months before. I was like, we just going to add 500 more seats to the sanctuary. Here I am talking about what I know we can do. Oh, it's only going to cost this and all that. And the Lord said, oh.
He told the whole church down.
Oh, okay. So you ain't going to tear it down? Or blow it down. Man.
He's going to add 500 seats?
That's all. I was like, yeah, we're going to add 500 seats to it and just, because I've added 700 to it once. So,
okay.
So I'm like, yeah, now we'll be sitting, it'll seat 3,000 and right where the Lord want us to be. And then I'm going to redo the bathrooms. God says, okay, you keep trying to take this incremental progress that you know you can do and you will not walk by faith. I'm going to make you do it. And he towed a whole club up. Towed a whole club. Just tow it down. I'm like, Lord.
What you gonna build? You finna build a 5,000 seat sanctuary?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sure am.
The little 500 wasn't gonna do it.
Sure am.
Let me tell you how this, because this is what I was hearing in the spirit. The fact that, and God is just so magnificent in this. So he's moved you to Joel Osteen Church to expand you so that when you go into the new church, you ain't got to look for the membership to fill the capacity of it.
This is what I told them. I said, God ain't no tease. God never introduces you. He never introduces you to anything he doesn't intend you to become.
There it is.
Why would he waste a visual on something he don't want you to accomplish?
He never operates like that.
So I told him, I said, y'all look around.
Yep, because this is going to be us.
This is a view of a coming attraction. This is what we got to do.
I always see how God moves. It's like that. You don't just sit there and you take, how many members y'all got at your church now?
We got 20,000 members.
So y'all got 20,000, but y'all, have y'all ever filled that building up, the 16,000?
No, absolutely not. But I wish 16,000 out of 20,000 people would come to church. We would have had it already. We'll do, 4,000 or 5,000 on the weekend. At Pastor Osteen's church, we had 3,000 at 7:00 at night, which wasn't our normal time.
Yeah.
Where we have our biggest impact is online. We'll have about 20 to 30,000 people who will watch the sermon either live or within the first hour of it viewing. And so we have about 1.8 million, 1.6 to 1.8 million unique views of every sermon of all of our sermons every week. So we understand that, this is what I tell our church. The people in the room are the studio audience.
Mm-hmm. And
the people through the lens are the ones who are watching the attraction. And so we've got to literally sell them on Jesus. And it's got to be excellent because they're not in the room. They can't feel it. So we got to do it at another level.
You get it. You understand. It's You get it. Because when you first started talking about, being at, what is Joel Osteen Church called?
Lakewood.
Lakewood. Yeah, Lakewood. So Lakewood, and I already knew that that's what God was doing. He expands that way, and I've watched how he did that in my life. He'll take me somewhere, I'll see it, and then he'll be like, take a picture of it. Teray mentioned that one day. He was like, he said, you have a unique ability to perceive stuff. Because before I got signed to Jan Miller as my literary agent, I used to go to her book signings when I was in my early 20s, and I'll be sitting around her house and I'll be like,
it's crazy.
Yep.
Jan's my agent.
Jan, your agent too?
Mm-hmm. So I know you're going to do all right then.
Teray prophesied that I'll be signing with her.
Wow.
And literally almost 6 months later, no work on my own, trying to network myself there. It was somebody that knew her, that just met her, this guy named Billy. Billy, she had came out of church, and then she said, hey, here's my number. It's something about you. If you know anybody that wants to write a book, just give me a call.
Dupree Miller.
Wow. Dupree Miller.
Wow.
And he was talking one day, and I said, man, Teray had prophesied this or whatever. And then he was like, no, I don't even think I told him that. I just said that I used to go to a book signing. He was like, well, you want me to call her? We'll call her. And he called the next day, and we got on the phone 5 minutes into the conversation. He said, there's something about you. I believe I'm supposed to represent you.
Do you know who Tony Robbins' literary agent is?
Yes.
Do you know who Maria Shriver's literary agent is?
Absolutely.
Do you know who Joel Osteen's literary agent is?
Absolutely.
So God is showing you what he's going to do with you next.
Do you know who Bishop T.D. Jakes' literary agent is? The Jan Miller. And that's what it was. We was on a call today with a publisher, and that's what I was, and she and I was talking, and I said, yeah, I got Keion coming on the podcast. She said, blow that book up.
Yeah, because she going to get 15%, so we got to go at it.
Blow that book up.
Jan's amazing.
I love her.
She's
She's an amazing woman. I just thank God. I call them destiny helpers, people that come alongside of you that help you fulfill destiny. And so I never take that for granted. Listen, why should people get this book?
They should get this book because God is love. And if you're ever going to be like him, you got to start there. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. While we were yet sinners, he commended his love towards us. This whole exercise of life is about love. The word love is mentioned in the Bible 361 times. You think he wants us to get it? You can't be like God until you learn to love properly. And you don't get that from hashtag, if it ain't like this, I don't want it. You got to get back to the origin of love. And I cover it with agape, storge, phileo, eros. I talk about all of the different loves, and I talk about the 4 threats: when there is no communication, when there is no respect, when you confuse sex for intimacy. See, these are all of the things that threaten the very nature of love, puts us at a disadvantage where we cannot receive the accoutrements that love offer. And then we walk through every weekly. Right? W-E-E-K, W-E-A-K. And we walk weak because we were created to be loved. I don't care how much hurt you've been through. And you say you don't care what nobody thinks about you. You were created to be loved. And until you subscribe to that ideology, you won't get the full potential of your gift and destiny. Because when life isn't treating you kind, you need somebody who will. When you're speaking negatively to yourself, you need somebody who will tell you that you're more than a conqueror. And if you are lazy in your love towards them, it's possibly that they will be lazy in their love towards you.
There it is.
Because you can never get a withdrawal where you haven't put a deposit.
That part. One of the biggest things I had to learn, especially getting married young when I was married, is confusing intimacy and sex. And to know that there is a huge difference, and marriage will surely teach you that that's a difference.
Absolutely.
And so I think that this book is going to serve people in the way that God needs them to be served, on the level of knowledge and intellect and wisdom that you poured into this book. And so again, I'm encouraging everybody, go get this book, Lazy Love. Man, listen, I just thank you for being honest and transparent and vulnerable today. We just chopped it up. I didn't know what we're going to talk about. I said we're going to chop it up. And you showed up and did a great job.
Man, can I just say to you, like, I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you, King.
Like, you're always online. I tune in and watch. I had a lot of friends that you brought on the show.
Yeah.
I love the veracity and the diversity.
Veracity. Put that in y'all. Veracity.
I love the
say again, veracity.
I love the breadth of guests you bring.
Yes.
Everybody ain't a pastor. Everybody ain't, what I'm saying? I love that we know who you are, but you represent the kingdom well.
Amen.
On both sides of the coin. So, man, big ups to you. I'm praying nothing but success over this movement.
Thank you.
8 is the year of new beginnings, the number of new beginnings, and I'm asking God to give you 8 more.
I thank you, man. That means a lot to me. Like I said, I've watched you throughout the years, and I've just been in awe with. And I judge a man by is how they handle adversity, and so I've watched how you handle adversity, and you just keep your head up, and you'll be like. It's like God fashioned you for such a time as this. You know what I'm saying? That's when people have been called to ministry because you just watch how they navigate different spaces. And that's the reason why I want to ask you, how did you navigate your whole church been, in water? Because that's a hard thing to navigate.
I think I handle adversity well because it's never my intent to be adversarial. So if I'm misunderstood, doesn't mean I was being adversarial. So I don't have to go to bed at night apologizing to anybody or myself because I was intentionally adversarial. I try to be as good to people as I want them to be to me.
That's good.
And I don't always get it right, but I do get it right sometimes. And there are times that I don't feel good. I remember recently, Deion Sanders I don't know what God has given that man. And if anybody was watching him, he's got a special gift.
He does.
There have been 2 occasions in the last year where I felt down and I didn't say anything to anybody. And he called me at the exact moment that I started to feel inadequate. And I'm like, man, how? He said, don't get this twisted. I'm a man of God. I do coach football. You heard him say it.
Yeah.
So God does that with certain people.
Yeah.
And that encouragement will lift me up. And I don't need a lot. I don't need to eat a lot to be full.
I want you to share that. Share what he said that day when you was on your couch frustrated when all the stuff hit the fan about the whole silence the lady thing.
Yeah, he called me. He called me then. He said to me, now, you can't slap a pit bull and get mad because they try to bite you. In other words, you can't get success and not run into the people who don't want to see you have it. He also said, number 2, it was the same people that said, Lord, Lord, that said, crucify. So he says, when they love you, don't be excited. When they hate you, don't be discouraged. Because at any moment, both opinions can change.
Woo, we're gonna end on that. That's some good stuff. Deion, the GOAT.
He the GOAT. He the GOAT. Yeah.
That's why it's so important to have men of God around you to keep your arms lifted up when you can't lift your own arms. It's so important to have those errands on your side to just be able to say, listen, I got you. And give the word. It's like, who encourages the encourager?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, God will bring people that may be unassuming to most people. Be like, what Deion gonna say to you? You know what I'm saying? You a pastor. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, no, he's a coach at heart. Yep. And he's a man of God at heart. So if you put somebody that has been fashioned to be a coach, he can coach you out of your situation. That's what he does. That's his gift, is the coach. Hey, y'all give it up for my homie, Keion Henderson, y'all.
Man, I love it here, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man.
Man, this was fun. Thank you for showing up, King. Thank you, King. Thank you.
Been writing these love letters to you.
Ladarian, thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, Black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, Black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our Black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young Black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale. Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical context, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm Laterras R. Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit kingdomroyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today. Thank you, Keion, for showing up transparent and vulnerable. Hey, listen, if you haven't joined my Patreon, can y'all join the Patreon? Because season 9, which is going to start next week, y'all are going to get some behind the scenes footage of my homie, my new homie, which is Gary Chapman. He's coming on the podcast, The 5 Love Languages. I'm going to vlog the whole day that he's with me, so y'all do not want to miss that. Again, go to Patreon and join. Be a patron. Listen, here's my favorite part of the podcast where I speak to my future wifey. Dear Future Wifey, inactive, sluggish, lethargic, languorous, listless, idle, lackadaisical are a few synonyms for the word lazy. Our love will never be lazy. I will never take you for granted or assume that our love can thrive on autopilot. I will continue to learn and grow, striving to be the best partner I can be for you. Whether it's planning a spontaneous adventure or simply listening to you after a long day, I will make you feel cherished and valued. Communication will be our bedrock. I will speak my truth with love and listen to yours with an open heart. We will navigate the highs and lows of life together, ensuring that our bond remains unbreakable. Intimacy will be a priority, not an afterthought. I will make time for romance, ensuring that our connection remains vibrant and alive. From stolen glances to lingering touches, our love will be a constant dance of passion and affection. Lastly, I will honor and respect you every day of our lives. I will celebrate your successes and comfort you in your sorrows. I will be your biggest cheerleader and your safest place. Together, we will build a love that is strong, resilient, and everlasting. Your future hubby. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.